It's also what would protect them in the event of a depressurization in the spacecraft. These Orion Crew Survival System suits could keep the crew member wearing it in a breathable atmosphere for up to 6 days if Orion were to depressurize. Now, this is obviously the first time that humans have ever flown aboard Orion, so the first time we've gotten the opportunity to test out these suits. So after they put on the suits, they will pressurize them, and then they will install their seats. They uninstalled their seats following arrival in their high Earth orbit. And with these suits being pressurized, that seat install would be a little more difficult.
Jenny, we are ready for the position to latch the leg assemblies onto the seat backs for 1 and 2.
For both seats 1 and 2, you're looking for the seat pan position. You will be putting the pit pins in position 3 and 7 for both seats.
This is Artemis 3, 2. Sorry, I don't know why I keep getting those mixed up.
James, we are nearing the time of having y'all go off board so that we can get into our suits. Just wanted to check in with you on timing or anything else you've noted that you want to share before we get into that.
This is on the mission while we're going back to the moon.
Thanks for letting us know, Christina. That syncs with everything that we've been tracking. We just want to update you that we don't believe that we will do any objectives at the lower pressure, so at 3.7 psi-D at your suit delta pressure, and we're also looking at adjusting the objectives during the first set as well. So we'll continue to talk about that, and in the meantime, you're go to continue.
I think we're gonna go back to the moon in Artemis 4, I think it is. Artemis 2 is gonna do an orbit, and I think Artemis 3 is gonna do one too. Okay, let's see how this works.
Houston Integrity, seats 1 and 2, rapid on complete.
Copy, rapid dawn complete, seats 1 and 2, thank you.
As part of this test, we have vented some of the cabin pressure overboard. It is now 11.0 psi inside the cabin. Again, today we are conducting a demonstration of these crew survival system suits. Now that the suits are pressurized, it can be more difficult for the astronauts to maneuver about the cabin. They are obviously also connected to umbilicals, which make another hurdle into moving around the spacecraft. The crew will soon be moving into their midday meal period. And then later this afternoon, having the OTC 3 burn, that's Outbound Trajectory Correction 3. We did cancel OTCs 1 and 2. These small outbound trajectory correction burns help keep us on the proper trajectory for our lunar flyby and our return to Earth.
Integrity, we have you the same. Please execute procedure 2.1.0, cabin leak suspected. We need to get the cabin pressure control to maintenance. This will perform a cabin O2 introduction.
again, we are working on getting the crew audio back into the broadcast, but you heard Capcom Jenny Gibbons, CSA astronaut in Artemis 2 backup, communicating with the crew some of our recent changes on the spacecraft. As we went into the LOS with the crew, that loss of signal, which we were expecting, we also noticed a cabin fan change, which caused a cabin leak suspect warning. There was no cabin leak. We needed to mode back to a maintenance option and reintroduce oxygen into the cabin.
All right, Jenny. The moon is decidedly large out the window today. We can see all of Apollo, all of Oriental, annular ring. We can see, I'm 99% sure, awsome, see Pirazo very easily, and just getting over. Can't quite pick up Vavilov yet, but that far side that is right on the limb is extremely mountainous. Try to get some pictures, but it's a high grazing angle. But it's pretty awesome to just look out and see all of these sites, and it's bright, but very visible with the naked eye. Still primarily seeing whites, grays. Maybe I can convince myself on the far side there's some just hues of brown, very light, very, very faint. But it's a great view. It's beautiful. And on the near side, Aristarchus is by far the most prominent feature. It is really just glowing bright right now.
The LEM is the Lunar Excursion Module.
That's beautiful, Reed. Thanks for bringing us all up there with you.
And for the science team, Pirazo and Aristarchus have the same albedo level right now. They're the same level of brightness. And then looking down, Copernicus is just a little bit dimmer, but it's close.
And Houston integrity, just one other observation. Looking at the Terminator, it's almost a full moon from this perspective, but we got the Terminator on the western edge of the moon, about 1 Oriental diameter from Oriental, and just with our plain eyes, you can really start to see topography. There is elevation on the moon, not just variation in color, and that already makes the moon look wildly different.
Houston integrity confirming your go-no-go for this burn.
Integrity Houston, MCC has pulled go for the burn.
We gonna be able to see this?
Integrity copies.
This is Artemis Mission Control in Houston, Texas. We just heard confirmation there that the team here in Mission Control has pulled go for the upcoming outbound trajectory correction burn 3. This burn expected to take place in about 26 minutes from now, and it will be an approximately 19-second burn using the auxiliary engines on the Orion spacecraft. There were previously 2 other outbound trajectory correction burns on flight days 3 and 4 that ended up being canceled as it was determined they were no longer needed due to the accuracy of the translunar injection burn on flight day 2. However, the team decided to go ahead and execute this outbound trajectory correction burn 3 today on flight day 5 to ensure an accurate trajectory as the spacecraft begins to make its way around the moon and back to Earth to minimize further larger trajectory corrections that may be needed on the return journey.
Integrity Houston, maneuver to burn attitude starting in about 3 minutes. Integrity Houston, we're in burn attitude.
We see the same.
This is Artemis Mission Control in Houston, Texas. We just heard that confirmation called up to the crew on board the Orion spacecraft that the spacecraft has maneuvered to the correct burn attitude in preparation for the upcoming outbound trajectory Correction 3 burn scheduled to take place in about 5 minutes from now. This is Artemis Mission Control in Houston, Texas. You're now seeing a live view of the Orion spacecraft, the exterior of the spacecraft, as we are about 2 minutes out from the upcoming outbound trajectory correction 3 burn. That burn is expected to last about 19 seconds, taking place around 10:03 p.m. Central, 11:03 p.m. Eastern Time. This burn will fine-tune the trajectory of the Orion spacecraft to ensure it stays on target for its journey around the moon and back. This is Artemis Mission Control. We are about 30 seconds away from the time of ignition for the outbound trajectory correction burn. That is when the auxiliary thrusters on the Orion spacecraft service module will begin firing to complete the outbound trajectory correction burn and fine-tune its trajectory.
Yeah, they're about 200,000 miles away, so the time difference has gotta be nuts.
And we have confirmation that that outbound trajectory correction burn is now underway. And we now have confirmation that that burn has completed.
There must
Again,
not
that
be a
was an
camera
approximately
at the rocket
19-second burn
itself.
using the auxiliary thrusters on the Orion spacecraft service module. That burn completed at 10:03 p.m. Central Time, 11:03 p.m. Eastern Time, to further fine-tune the Orion spacecraft's trajectory as it continues to make its way around the moon, and it was a good burn.
Integrity Houston, good burn. We are assessing the details.
Good news, and we see the same. Thanks, Mark. Great to finally do a burn.
Calculation.
I know.
Calculations
Beautiful
for
burn,
calculations. About calculating the calculations.
We are maneuvering for
That's how you gotta do
science, and you would need to configure your D5 and Z9 cameras for that, like yesterday.
We are tracking and looking forward to it very much. We had a
There's
gorgeous
no
view
room
of
for
a very
error
big
here.
moon right out of window 2 during that burn. Well, right before the burn, before we maneuvered. It was awesome.
And looks like we'll be back at window 2 for this as well.
This is Artemis Mission Control. About 7 minutes ago, the Orion spacecraft executed the outbound trajectory correction 3 burn to fine-tune the trajectory of the Orion spacecraft as it continues to make its way around the moon, with that lunar flyby planned for tomorrow on flight day 6. Now that that outbound trajectory correction burn is complete, teams will be maneuvering the Orion spacecraft into an attitude to be able to capture some opportunistic imaging of the moon.
Yeah, that was expected. NASA isn't really. It's not NASA's job to entertain.
Good morning from Mission Control Houston. We are in the Artemis Flight Control Room here at the Johnson Space Center, coming to you live with our 24/7 continuous coverage of the Artemis 2 mission. I'm Nilofer Ramji with NASA Communications, and the team of Orbit 3 flight controllers are currently in the room planning the day ahead as the crew prepares to wake up in the next hour and 18 minutes counting down. We are at a mission elapsed time of 4 days, 14 hours, and 56 minutes and counting. The Orion spacecraft, called Integrity, is 243 miles away from Earth and just 21,000 miles away from the Moon, which is our big plan for today. The crew aboard Orion, as well as those currently in mission control, as well as the multiple backrooms supporting the mission, are incredibly excited for the various milestones that the crew will be experiencing today. That first milestone begins with the Apollo distance record. The Apollo distance record signifies the furthest humans have ever traveled away from Earth. That distance record is coming up in about 4 hours, 26 minutes and counting. In addition to that, we will also conduct a lunar flyby, and that lunar flyby period is going to be happening in about 9.5 hours and counting. The lunar observations for this mission are from a higher vantage point that are a little bit farther than Apollo's lunar orbits. On average, astronauts can observe both poles and large-scale geologic features in a single view. So depending on the illumination conditions, Artemis 2 astronauts will become the first humans to directly observe a certain far side of the moon regions with unaided eyes. The human eyes are trained and remain one of the most powerful scientific tools NASA can send to space. During Artemis 2, astronauts have been able to quickly survey wide areas and adjust their focus in real time, describe relationships between features, capabilities that cameras and instruments alone cannot replicate.
The crew observed the same regions that we're going to see a little bit later today multiple times under changing lighting conditions during a single flyby. So they're getting perspectives that would take robotic missions years to accumulate. The audio descriptions that you'll hear later today, the situational reports, or what we call sit reps, and crew annotations will provide essential context that enhances the scientific value of imagery. There are about 30 targets included. They're tied to past robotic missions, current science priorities, and future exploration sites, including regions near the lunar South Pole considered for future Artemis missions, and observing how surface features such as lighting evolves that allows scientists to better understand color, albedo, texture, morphology, and other key information for interpreting orbital and surface data. Currently, you are seeing live views from one of Orion's solar arrays. We see the moon right there in the distance. The solar arrays are currently focused on the vehicle, and that is looking up at the service module of the Orion spacecraft. And as we get closer and closer to the moon, those solar arrays will move out just slightly to focus more on the moon. We'll continue to provide you with live 24/7 coverage of the Artemis II mission. For now, this is Mission Control Houston.
This is awesome, but honestly kinda boring. I mean, it's boring, but it's cool at the same time. I'm torn on whether I should just end this live stream because nothing is happening, but as soon as I end it, something's gonna happen, I know that. You know what, this was a good stream. That was cool. I'll just end it here. I'm gonna keep this page like this, I guess. Just in case something else happens, I guess. If I can go live soon enough, I will, but no promises. I'll see you later. Goodbye.